is Anthony Kinyanjui. My friends call me DJ Ras Antoh, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. I got here November 30th, 2001. Coming from at that particular time, Kenya was really not conducive for my age group, and by that I mean there was no jobs, there was no. I'd gone to college back then, and there was no job. There was no hope for employment or whatever. So my hope was to better my future when I got here. You know, my expectations were really, I'd say really high, because it was really different coming from no employment, no money, to hope of a job, hope of a better future. So my expectations were really high when I got here. Well, now 2001, I'm here the first few months, and getting used to the system, the program, life here. And like say a year later, I started work, and when I started work, when I started making money, is when, now I could afford it. I could afford the lifestyle of being able to get a drink after work, or maybe a drink on the weekend. So that's how it started. It started with me when I started work. I'd be able to afford a drink, but what happened is now, with time, the weekend drink shifted to weekdays. Whereas I could work all weekend, drink just on weekends. It became an everyday thing. The progression started getting out of hand, and the more that happened, the more, the more tolerance, because like when you first get here, you have to get accustomed to a lot of things: the food, the drinks, the everything, the life, like your bodies, you gotta get accustomed to everything. So saying that means that with time, the progression just kind of took off on its own, from, say, drinking 6 beers, the progression grew to 24 beers. The progression grew from beers, it graduated to hard liquor. So that's how all that started. I became an everyday drinker. And by every day, it started off, like I said before, with the beers, and then the beers were not carrying it, and then it progressed to beers and, say, a pint of some hard liquor, and then with time, the pint graduated to half a pint, and then with the time, the half a pint was gone, and now it was a liter of vodka with less beer. And then with time, there was no beer at all, and it was just more hard liquor, no beer at all. And with time, finally, that was all I drank. I'd quote unquote what they call be a functioning alcoholic. I'd go to work, I'd get off of work, and then I'd drink, and then sleep, and I'd wake up the next day, go to work, just repeat that cycle. But with time, like I said, when it graduated to more hard liquor, I couldn't make it to work, I couldn't keep a job. So with time, it did start affecting my job. Yeah, and like towards the end was really bad, because I couldn't keep a job at all. Because now everything, the liquor had taken over completely. When you're drinking and when you're in that, or when you have friends that are also drink, you all don't see nothing wrong with any of that. So I mean, with the progression, I was in this circle of friends that also did the same thing. So it was like the blind leading the blind. You know what I'm saying? But there's say friends that would really be like, I think you have a problem, but no, how do I have a problem? And we all work there, because most of the people that say I drunk with, we'd work with, or we'd have such of sort of some ties somewhere, somehow. So, and their life was still going on. So there's really not anyone that would come out and say that, you have a problem because you are also doing the same thing. So 2007 is when that's the first year I'd say that I really realized that I had a huge problem on my hands. I can recall one time I woke up in hospital. This is a true story. I woke up in hospital somewhere. I thought I was in Lower General Hospital, but somehow ended up it was in Lawrence. I couldn't remember what had happened. I woke up with stitches on my head, with no clothes on, Lawrence, and I couldn't remember what had happened. Now, when I woke up, the doctor told me that, you are like 6 times above the legal limit. You are really intoxicated. You could have died just from the amount of liquor you had died. This is not good for you, man. I think you need to look into it. You might have a problem with drinking. This is what I remember. I remember going to a friend's house in Methuen, Mass. How I ended up at the hospital, I have no idea to this day. To this day, I can't tell you this is what happened, but I woke up, no clothes on, stitches on top of my head, thinking I'm in Low, but I'm in Methuen. Now, that's when I kind of like, on those moments of sobriety, I'm like, whoa, how did I get here, And that's when I started really kind of looking at it. Now, when that happened, that's when this cycle of self-reflection started. When that was the first time when I kind of like pumped my brakes a little bit, and I was like, whoa, this needs to happen. But it didn't really happen right there and then, because what happened is like, it escalated from there. I lost my job the first time. All these years I'd been able to keep a job, but after that happened, I lost my job. Now, when you lose a job here, you know what happens. You can't keep a car, you can't keep a house, you can't keep anything. So another cycle now started that I had not seen before, because I'd been used to a cycle of working, drinking, working, keeping an apartment. I was able to do that when I was doing that, but now here comes this cycle that I had never seen before of losing a job, losing an apartment, losing the car, and having nothing. So when that happened, that was, I said, 2007. That was the first time I was like, I'd basically say homeless. Didn't really hit me till later, but that was the first time I would say I was homeless, because I ended up losing my apartment in Low. And when I lost my apartment, my brother decided that, he told me I could come live with him in Worcester. So I moved to Worcester, and again, the cycle started. New friends, new jobs, same cycle, drinking, nothing wrong with it. Till finally, we couldn't get along in the same, apartment or whatever, and ended up moving to a town called Oxford. Same cycle again. New friends again. The craziness. Uh, Lost a job there, and at that time, my one of a girl I was dating back then, I moved back here from Florida, and we ended up getting married. But that kind of like slowed down my drinking, because now I had responsibilities. Now this is 2009, so I ended up getting married that year. But the drinking after I got married took off like never before. Now this was the worst I'd ever been. This that year, like after 2009, took off for some reason. I don't know why, and it progressively got worse. And at that point, I was not drinking anything else except liquor. And that year, it took off like I have never experienced before. And and with it taking off like that, so did it also affected a lot of the normal life that I was used to. Now I could not keep a job at all, at all, at all. I could not keep it, because at that point, I'd say the sickness, because at that time I was really, really sick. I was a severe alcoholic at that time. I couldn't keep a job, and I lost like, I think at some point, now this is 2010, I'd lost like, by June of that year, I think I'd lost like 4 jobs, because I couldn't keep a job. The minute I got paid like that, all of it was, okay. Yeah. So when that took off, I think that is the same year I think I got a heart attack from drinking. Now that's a story that you should hear, because when it took off like that, I think beginning of 2010, I wasn't taking care of myself at all. Like I said, I was just drinking, and it had taken over. And that year, I think in January 2010, my blood pressure was really out of control, and I was drinking. And I remember waking up that I think it was a Saturday morning. I spoke to my sister, and she was gonna come pick me up. We were gonna go for someone's baby shower. So I think I woke up, took a shower, and was waiting for her, and woke up 8 days later from the ICU. Now, when I woke up, do you know where I was? Do you know what had happened? Until they told me that we found you went into cardiac arrest. My then ex-wife had just left to go do something, and she was gonna come back later, but my sister also was on her way. It just by the grace of God, I'm telling you, because if my sister had not come, my ex-wife would have found me dead on the couch. 8 days later, 10 days later, they discharged me. Do you know the first place I went to was the liquor store? After 10 days in the hospital. That night, now because of being so weak, in the ER or whatever for over 10 days, my ex-wife comes home, finds me passed out, and calls the ambulance. They come and take me to the same hospital, right, that had discharged me in the afternoon. The same nurse that had discharged me in the afternoon is still on duty. She looks at me, and that is the second time I kind of like realized, well, I think I really have a big problem now. The same nurse told me, man, listen, you were here in the afternoon. You just came back. You just had a heart attack. You almost died. and you're here because you're drunk. You do need to really know what you're doing. You are gonna die. The next time you won't survive it. That was the second time I was like, yeah, this is kind of serious now. Now after that, I go back home, forget all about what she told me, and keep drinking. And obviously now I have a wife or whatever, and because I can't keep up my end of the I can't keep a job basically because I work say 4 days in a week. The day they pay me like that, man, I'm not working for a week. Period. I have money, I'm not going to work. Until I run out of money, that's when I'll go back to work. The little I worked, I was a hard worker. So when I worked, when I was serious, I made a lot of money. When I was like in those moments of sobriety, I was able to keep my end of whatever. But once I got paid, that was it. So we ended up losing the apartment where we lived in, where I had the heart attack. No, before we lost that apartment, something else happened. After the heart attack, she was also really scared at that time. She'd find me passed out. A lot of the war stories of the disease, man, that I went through with it. I'd say I'd gone to work, find out I have money, and I'm like, I'm not working. Go back home, get smashed. And it got to a point where she was also fed up with all of that. Now, she did what was called a Section 35, where it's kind of a forced rehab. So she went in front of a judge and said that she was scared for my life. This guy just had a heart attack. I think he's gonna kill himself, whatever. And it was granted a Section 35. So I ended up being brought to Bridgewater State Prison. Well, that's where they have the program it's called MASAC. It's like a rehab. It's a program for, I'd say, forced rehab, for lack of a better word. It's like a forced rehab, but it's inside the state prison. The program itself is inside the state prison. So I ended up doing 30 days there. Now, when I was in there, that's the first time I got a good reflection on all this craziness, and when I was there is when I got to sit down and just focus on a lot of, things that had happened, what I'd lost. And I'd say that is the first time the seeds of sobriety were planted, and that was the first time I kind of really enjoyed being sober after a long time. Well, that didn't last long, and after I left there, I drank the same day. Drank the same day, went back to the life again. Now I have no job, and we end up losing the apartment where we lived. We end up like having to stay in a motel for the longest, for like 8 months, because I can't keep a job. Honeymoon phase of a marriage, and this guy can't keep a job, can't stop drinking, crazy. So after like 8 months, I finally, like I said, seeds of sobriety were planted when I was in that program. And, I'd get moments of clarity and just sit down and say, man, you know what, I don't need this, But again, friends, they show up and all that goes the window. And after that, we were able to save up and get an apartment somewhere in Worcester. Now, that apartment was the beginning of the end, because the minute I got the keys to that apartment, that is the year that now, if you thought it had taken off before, it was bad before, now this was the cream of the crop. Now this is the year that finally, um, the year that I stopped drinking. That's the year, because now this year it got really, really, really bad. 2011 and 2000, 2010. Oh no, that 2010, 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, so it really took off that year. And again, I had a job, and I think everyone at the job knew that by now this guy has an issue with drinking. Because I'd call out the weeks that we get paid. I get paid, say Friday, I'm not showing up to work till like whatever time when I'm broke. And that year, um, beginning of that year, I think my now ex-wife had had enough, and she had gone back to her dad's, and I was left with this apartment. I lost my job, I lost my car, and I was just like, hey, whatever now, free flow. So for like I lost my job March of that year, and for the next, say, 3 or 4 months, man, after that, there was numerous cases of ending up in the hospital again. What happened? I don't know. We found him somewhere again. I couldn't remember nothing, because now I was just straight up drinking really, really, really excessively. When I got fired from my last job, they gave me, like, all the time I had acquired and all. You know how now this is standard procedure for me at that point. I had gotten so used to it. It's kind of like I knew if they fire me, I'm going to have such and such amount of money. So I'm going to pay for an apartment, for my apartment, this, that, and the third. Craziness. So when they fired me from my last job, I was able to pay for like 2 or 3 months in advance for my rent. But when that was done, there's no way you're going to live in someone's house for free. And, here you are, like, all the time coming, trying to make something when you're drunk, passing out, smoke detectors going off, fire department comes numerous times. Like, this crazy cycle now again started again, but crazier, because my drinking at that point was not even to really enjoy. At this point now, it's just sickness. At this point, it's to be normal. At this point, I'm drinking to be a normal person, because I can't be normal when I'm sober. If that makes any sense. At that point, I can't even talk to anyone without a drink. I can't hold a decent conversation with anyone. I can't basically even say walk. I can't talk or anything, because I'm so dependent at that time. So after numerous reports by the fire department to the landlord about them coming, having to switch off the fire detectors for the whole apartment, finding me passed out, the landlord had it. No matter how much you pay someone, he's not gonna keep you there. You know what I mean? So numerous trips to the ER. By this time, they all know my name without even having to look for my ID, because they are so used to me, And I remember that year, July of that year, there's one time I just sat down, and again I woke up in the ER, or I woke up in the back of an ambulance or whatever. And I was just tired of it. I was just tired of that cycle, man. I was just so tired of it. And that day, I remember, I just sat down and said, man, I can't do this forever, I can't keep doing this. I'd lost so much, I'd lost everything at this point in time, and I just said, I can't keep doing this, that, and the third. So anyway, my landlord tells me, I'm gonna help you move. I'm gonna even pay for your storage unit. This is how much he wanted me out of the apartment. I'm going anything you want me to. I'll even give you your security for you to get out of my apartment. And I had nowhere to go, so I paid for my stuff for storage or whatever, and homeless. When I say homeless, I had the deposit and whatever, and my brother-in-law at the I talked to him and I said, man, listen, I don't have anywhere to go, but just 2 days and I'll figure myself out. So obviously the first day I go there, smashed, like. So he doesn't even say anything to me. At that point in time, he worked at the detox in Worcester. So he doesn't say anything to me. The second day, still smashed. Don't have nothing going for me in life. So hey, why not, right? So the third day, he comes up to me and he says, man, I don't know what he said to me, but I remember it was August the 2nd or the 3rd or whatever day. And for some reason that day, I don't know, angels walk through men sometimes, man. And God walks through people, and God appears to you through people that you least expect. And that day, I don't know, whatever it is he said to me, and he made a lot of sense at that time. And the following morning, which was the 3rd, I guess, I still had a bottle. I'll never forget that. I had a bottle of vodka. And he told me, they can't take you into the detox when you're sober. And that, the August the 3rd, 2011 was on all that craziness ended. That was the last drink I ever had that morning. When he told me, when you can't go to a detox sober, what are they gonna detox you for? So I ended up drinking that morning, and that was the last drink I ever had after all those years, after all that craziness. When I got there, the first 3 days were really hard. The first 3 days at the detox were really hard. But I was determined. That life, and I'm homeless now. That life, I was so tired of. I didn't want anything to do with it. I'd lost so many things, so much. I didn't want no part of. So I was ready to do this. I was ready, and when you're ready, you're ready. You know what I mean? So after the 3 days in the detox, they were really hard, and they asked me, you can go for a program. You look like you're really serious about this, because they know who's serious and who's not. So after the 3 days, I ended up they have a program upstairs from the detox. I don't know whether they still do, but I ended up going to a program called Passages. It's a 30-day program. And man, let me tell you, that was the best decision I have ever made, going to that detox going to the detox and the rehab, because when I went there, everything fell into place now. Like, when I said that the seeds had been planted earlier on from the program in Bridgewater, now this is when it started making sense. This is when the program, like whatever it is they were telling me back then, came together, and I started understanding where I was going wrong with my life, why I was, what the underlying issues that I was kind of dealing with that I didn't know about. I started, like, it all started making sense. And after the 30 days, I chose to go do an extensive program, because I wasn't ready. I was not going back to the outside world at all without being ready. So I ended up going for a 6-month program at Salvation Army here in Worcester. And that was also one of the best decisions ever because that program saved my life. This is extensive and intensive. You get to learn the steps of AA, a program that if anyone is out there suffering with alcoholism or drug addiction, man, that is the program. And because most people, they think that there's a cure for alcoholism. Utaenda hosi and then you're given this magical pill, this, whatever, and you're cured. The beginning of the interview, I said, I'm a recovering alcoholic. There's a reason I still say that. I can say I'm cured. I'm a cured alcoholic, but that is a lie. You know what I mean? I'm a recovering alcoholic, because for one, there's no cure for alcoholism. If there is, I'd want to know, but I think a lot of people are skeptical about how does it work, how do they get, because they don't know that, it's all it's all what you do that helps you get the help, or it's all self-inflicted. So it's the cure comes from within. That I learned when I was in the program, you know what I mean? And all the, like I call them war stories, all the things I've done for liquor, the scars I have to show for all of that, There are things I was really ashamed of at first, and I would never ever, talk about them until, I started embracing them and saying, it's part of my past, and I have to, use them to help the next person, because without people like me, there's alcoholics out there who are struggling, and they wouldn't believe when, someone like me says, there's hope, or what I mean. So that's one of the reasons. So the program was 6 months, and after, when I got out, I started reclaiming a lot of the things that I'd lost. I got a job. I got my ex-wife back. I actually ended up getting 2 jobs. After 2 jobs, I got my car back. I got the life. I got what they call the fruits of sobriety. Now, that's the first year, peaches and cream, really nice year, easy year, a first sober year. Now, second sober year, man, the trials come, I'd get episodes of the drink creeping up on me, or, me feeling like I needed a drink, days like that. But with time, the strength grew, and here I am. For me, I'd say there are times when the disease creeps up on you, like that, out of the blue. You're walking, man, do you know how long it took me to walk into, say, a liquor store, even for a stick of gum? Almost 5 years. I would not go anywhere near, until one day I was like, hold on, it has no control over me, you know what I mean? But it would creep up on me a lot. There's one day it creeped up on me, and I was like, man, I didn't know what to do. With all the teachings of AA, with all the things, and that was the day when I having been behind the walls of AA or whatever, when it creeped up on me, I was really, really glad I knew what to do. Because if I didn't know what to do at that point in time, I would have gone back. And that was called someone who was also in the program. Like, say today, I'm seated here watching TV. It's boring Saturday, Sunday day, whatever. Bored watching TV, and say an advertisement comes on, that they know how to really market this liquor. So say it's a hot day in the summer, there's a brand new whatever, brandy or whatever. And I'm like, man, wow, because I'm still an alcoholic, a recovering one. But the sickness. But I see it and I'm like, man, that looks good. And I start thinking about it, and the thought will start like slowly manifesting itself, and it will grow up to the point where I'm like, you know what? Forget this. What am I doing? What am I gonna go? So what I do at that point in time is I reach out. I reach out to someone that's in the program. Say someone that, knows and understands that, that does happen. Because, when you're really young in the program and that happens and you don't have the right tools, you're bound to trip and fall. But if you have the right network around you, that if you surround yourself with the right people, you're good to go. So when it does happen like that, number one is block off the thought, number one, completely, and not even go there. If that doesn't work, I'll look for my network of sober people, like people that are also in the program of AA with me, or my sponsors or whatever. And I'll talk to them and I'll tell them, I'm still human at the end of the day. And I'll have disappointments, I'll have whatever. Life still comes at me the same way. Now, the difference is, it's how I handle it, because now before I could blanket all these emotions, all these feelings, and I could numb them with liquor or whatever. But now I have to face them head on, So I mean, when that does happen, I kind of like found what do you call it, a solution for me, for myself, that works. I don't know whether it would work for everyone else, but for me, that's how I deal with a certain, that one, if it creeps up on me. I'll give you an example. Now, I sober up, and this is my heading to my second year, and I'm blessed enough to be taking a trip back to Kenya. Have a vacation like 2 months, right? And I'm on the plane back to Kenya. And I'm like, hey, this looks like a good time to have a drink. On the plane, it creeps up on me. Why not? Hey, I've been sober, I've done all this. And let me tell you, that was the hardest flight ever. Because now I was like, wow, I didn't expect it, because, hey, I felt warranted. Here I am 2 years later. Why not? Why not? I deserve it. But ended up not drinking, but temptation does come, is what I'm trying to say. I like you see, I'm a DJ. And I work sometimes around people that are drinking. So it took a really, really long time for me to get there. It just didn't happen like that. It took a long time for the strength to get to that point. So I think I never dealt with the death, because my dad died when I was really, really young. My dad died back in 97, and I was really young, at the age where I think I needed a father figure. So I think that was one of the underlying issues I never, ever, ever dealt with. You know what I mean? Like, I never came face to face with head on. And, I always blanketed it from when it happened. You know what I mean? So later on is when I kind of realized, I think I never actually dealt with it, because I'd numb it or just not think about it. I never kind of dealt with it. Yeah, I never grieved, because even when he died, I was really young, but I was able to drink and blanket it. And later on in life is when I realized, hold on, maybe I never took time to read. That was one of the underlying issues. Another one of the underlying issues here in the States is, after being in a long-term relationship and it not working like I expected it to go, but that when that happened, that was another issue that I never dealt with. You know what I mean? And that was one of the issues that was kind of like always in the back of my mind when all this craziness is happening. So when I look at it, the underlying issues, of that time, I still face them today. You know what I mean? So it was, I guess, the coping mechanism at that point. I just didn't know. You know what I mean? It's not that there's any difference between that time. I don't know whether it's maturity, but it's still the same amount of everything, that I was dealing with back then that I have to deal with right now. So I just guess it's, for lack of a better word, maturity. Man, one funny thing is, at that point, sometimes all we need is that, as alcoholics, all we need is that just one voice from it doesn't matter who, just that one hand, voice, or whatever, from someone that understands you, someone that maybe at least cares a little bit. It's not necessarily like a place to stay or job, whatever. Just that compassion, or just that helping hand. Like I said, God appears in people, and angels walk through men. It took someone from outside to really see me for what I am or what I'm not, and talk to me, and take his time and address the issues that he could see going on. If it was a Kenyan that did that, to this day I'd always remember, this guy saved my life. You know what I'm saying? But I think we as a community shun and kind of look at them as lepers, as or us alcoholics are looked upon as useless, hopeless, or whatever. So they are on their own. It's kind of like a group that's kind of put on the corner there. You know what I'm saying? The community does come together. A lot of Kenyans, I'd say, we are really united people. We really do unite. We really do come together. But when we do come together, it's for, say, someone's dead, someone's funeral, someone's church function. But when say it comes to issues pertaining to supporting Kenyan businesses, I personally don't see it happening. Supporting Kenyan artistry, may it be music, poetry, whatever, I don't personally see it. And I may be wrong, but personal point of view is that some things need a lot of polishing, need some work on it. Examples being supporting local businesses, supporting also a lot of these social misfits, I'd say, for lack of a better word. Because say when I say supporting social whatever is, I mean, when you see someone that's homeless, alcoholic, whatever, they are fighting a battle at that point in time that maybe only a helping hand that reaches out would know. Because having gone through it, sometimes it's not even be after or you need any monetary gain. You don't even need money. You don't need anything. Sometimes it just needs someone that can understand you. There's also a lot of underlying issues, depression, whatever, but sometimes it needs just that one person to, you know what I mean? And I think as Kenyans, we're really, really lacking on that end of things. The reason I also say that is because maybe lack of knowledge about a lot of things, So when say you say a homeless person, you don't know how you can help him, so you kind of like or when you see a drunk or an addict or an alcoholic, maybe you don't know how to help them out, so you kind of like distance yourself. So I mean, it only takes the community forming us people that have gone through it, and people that are in the field, because I know a lot of doctors, whatever, professors, whatever that are in the field. It takes them forming a network that kind of links itself with the suffering, the link between the suffering and the professionals. That's what I think is lacking. We are in a country where there's a lot of help for addiction, alcoholism readily available. The programs have been in place since the 30s. They work, and they work fine. One thing I'd say is that maybe people think that you have to have insurance, or you have to have this, that, and the third. There's always that stigma, is it? That you've gotta have this in order to have this, or sijui lazima ukuwe na sijui, Well, help is readily available for free. Yeah, like when I was going through whatever I was going through, I didn't have insurance, I didn't have a job, and yet I was able to, for the almost 6 months, stay and get the help I needed, with food and shelter included in that. So there's a lot of help, and people just need to reach out. Again, when you see anyone struggling, anyone that's homeless, or in going through addiction as a whole, don't shun them. Reach out. If you can't reach out, find, or just don't shove it under the carpet. Don't let it just be a topic you talk about. Oh, I saw so and so. I mean, do something about it. Reach out to us that that at least have an idea or have been through it. If you can't do something about it, at least help. Lend a helping hand by reaching out to people that are in the in recovery, or people that have gone through whatever that person was going through at that time. As a community, each one teach one. You know what I mean? Like any Kenyan that's struggling out there, man, there's so much help, man. There's so much help in this country for alcoholism. You don't have to live that miserable life. If you told me I'd be sober, I would have laughed at you. If you told me that one day I'd make it a month without drink, I would have laughed. And it takes only one day at a time. It doesn't take 2 days at a go. It doesn't take 6 months altogether, because there's one thing I think people just look at: how am I gonna be 6 months sober? Forgetting that you just have to do one day, and then the second day, the third day, and that's how you get to all this time. I very vocal about saying that one day at a time for me, 8 years later. It's not that I started with 8 years right there and then. I worked my way up slowly, you know what I mean? So any Kenyan, I've always been so vocal about leaving my phone open and my email open for anyone that doesn't want to call or talk, And I'll give you a story. There's a time I did have my story written on media on the social media by someone, and a lot of Kenyans read it, and they saw, that there was someone who understood, like, there's alcoholism and there's a problem with alcoholism. So I finally talk about the how my life was affected by alcoholism, what I went through, whatever. And I'd left my email and my phone number on the end of the story. And this lady reaches out to me and tells me, hey, listen, I have a daughter. Her name is so and so, and I think she has a huge issue, whatever. Her name is this. Yeah, this is her number. Can you call her? So I called her, man, and we started talking. She was going through exactly the same thing I was going through, like, to the point where you can't function. You were the point where you can't look at people, you can't go outside. So I exactly knew where she was in life, and I told her, hey, listen, this is what I did and this is what worked. Oh, I've never, because one of the things that she had done was she had accidentally slept on her kid, and her kid had died. She had choked her kid, and I think she never forgave herself for that. And and I kept, talking to this, because I understood where she was coming from, the self-blame, the self-hate. There's so much things that, she was going through, and I was trying to walk her through all of this. And here we are, and, we get to vibing, and she starts like telling me, hey, I woke up feeling much better today, whatever. Hey, today was a good day for me. And like every day she'd report, and we'd keep this vibe going. Now, at that point in time, I was driving all across America on big trucks or whatever, and we lost touch for a while. And I can't say that I blame, myself, or I blame whatever, but the lady did end up going back to drinking, and the next phone call I got from the mom was that she was dead. Yeah, and that shows you, like, the level of, I'd say, lack of how am I going? There's lack of a lot of the right channels to go to people. People don't know what to do. You know what I mean? People just, and this is quite honest and frank when I say this. People die drunk, and that is swept under the rug. No one wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to hush it. You know what I mean? A lot of people have died drunk, and because they were drunk, that's why they got into an accident. But it's hushed. A lot of people have had alcohol poisoning kill them. As Kenyans, we need to stop that nonsense. We honestly need to stop it. We honestly need to address the issue, and each one teach one. Each one bring one. At least, man, if you see someone with a problem, we can see what we can do. We can help. We can do whatever, And there's a lot of people that make me think that they need a lot of say, just it's easy. It's easy. It's not that hard. We don't need to lose lives just to the disease for lack of knowledge.